just taking this topic as we had earlier, thinking about the characters that are involved and the different perspectives that are brought to bear in a project. Simply put, there's three different points of view that are very often prevalent in a project and need to be respected. And this comes from an understanding that when you're making a decision, if you're making a decision just by yourself, the only pair of eyes looking at that question is your own. The only perspective on that challenge is your own. And you will always look at it in exactly the same way. Whereas if we can bring more perspectives, sometimes very different, very antagonistic perspectives, brought to bear on a single question, then we can get a much better insight into how different people would respond, and we can get a better balanced decision. Now, we don't want to encourage argument for the sake of argument, but what we do want to encourage is good quality decision making. And that's where this whole concept begins. We want good quality decisions. Now, I've honed in on the commercial side, so we'll just start with that for one moment. Let's begin with thinking about those people who are brought into the project to protect and validate the commercial interests. So in the way that we've been describing, it might be a sponsor, someone like that, someone who's investing in this project. They want to know that their money's going to be well spent. But they're not the only people. If we think about that road that I was telling you about, that might have been the Department of Transport, but there will be users. People who, in that example, will be drivers, people who are using modes of transport to get down the motorway. Lorry companies, freight companies, personal commuters like ourselves. These are the people who will determine to some extent, or will have a say in, what standard that product has to meet. So they're paying for it and they've got to use it. These are the people who've got to use it. Could be a computer system. They're not paying for it necessarily. You don't pay to use a computer system maybe here, but you're worried about its functionality. You want to be sure that it does what you need it to do. So that's their interest, and that's the perspective that they bring to bear to decision making. And then the last one, which is of particular importance, is the specialist view. And by specialist, I mean those people who are charged with building the product. So to take your example from earlier, when we were referring to the pharmaceutical product, the users, I won't use Viagra as an example here, the users will be the users of the drug, you know, whatever to say, it's paracetamol. They've got a headache, so they're going to need to take paracetamol, and they're worried about, you know, how quickly it works, whether it works, how well it works, and so forth. These are the people who want to make money from it. These are the chemists. These are the people who build that product. And in the case of a computer system, these will be the IT specialists. In the case of a road, it's going to be engineering and building companies. In the case of a new building, it's going to be brickies and scaffolders and electricians and plasterers and so forth. These are the people who build the deliverable that these people are going to use, which these people pay for. Now, if we can make sure that as we go through the life of a project, when we're thinking about should it start, how much budget should it have, when's it got to finish, should we stop it early, should we allow it to continue longer than we intended, should we accept this change, should we decline a change? When we have those big decisions to make, we want those three different perspectives brought to bear on those questions, because each of these will have a different but valid perspective on the answer to that question.